Welcome to the world of Dreamside Traveler. Here, beneath the soothing sound of gentle rain, we journey through time and space, uncovering the mysteries of the past and diving into the most captivating pages of human history. This place is created for those who love exploring the world in the quiet of evening, for those who value peace while yearning to discover something new before sleep. If you enjoy what you're hearing, please give this video a like. It helps other people find our stories. Help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers in our club of nighttime history lovers. And the Dreamside Traveler channel will become your faithful guide to sleep. We're constantly adding new stories for your peaceful evenings. And if you have ideas about which historical topics interest you, or simply want to share your thoughts, leave comments below the video. I'm genuinely curious to know what inspires you. Now close your eyes. Feel this gentle rain outside your window. Allow yourself to relax. Our journey begins right now. Close your eyes and let yourself drift into a world where there are no honking horns, no endless lines of traffic, no impromptu car alarms shattering your morning peace. Once upon a time, the idea of a car was as strange as a ship sailing on dry land. Roads were for hooves, not wheels, and anyone caught tinkering with noisy engines in a backyard shed was more likely to be a local oddball than a visionary. But in a small corner of Germany, tucked behind doors smudged with oil and hope, something quietly revolutionary was taking shape. A man named Karl Benz, thin, meticulous, eyes shining with that particular glow reserved for madmen and geniuses, spent his days surrounded by gears, wheels, and a stubborn dream. His invention looked more like a bench with ambitions than anything that would ever turn heads on the street. It rattled, it coughed, it left trails of smoke and disbelief in its wake. Yet, that peculiar machine, born in the stubborn chill of a German workshop, would not just rewrite transportation. It would redraw the very map of what was possible. This isn't just the saga of a car company. This is the origin story of the automobile itself, the birth of a legend, the first in a line of icons that would one day cruise the Autobahn at dawn, glide past vineyards and villages, and leave generations asking, how did anyone ever get by without this? But before the chrome, the leather, and the silent hum of electric motors, there was a symbol. Mercedes-Benz branding doesn't shout, it whispers confidence. No roaring lions or mythical beasts, just a three-pointed star, sharp and clean, standing quietly at the center of every grille. That star, it's not just about aesthetics. It stands for dominion over land, sea, and air. When you change the world, a little ambition is only natural. That symbol, nearly unchanged for almost a century, speaks of confidence that does not need constant reinvention. Mercedes-Benz is a name that arrives before the car does, trailing a promise of refinement wherever it goes. Yet, the story behind the name is as human as it gets. Mercedes was not an inventor or an engineer, but a daughter, the beloved child of Emil Jelinek, an early automotive enthusiast who believed in the power of speed and style. He ordered those first Daimler cars and insisted they bear her name. Benz, of course, is Karl Benz. the man whose stubbornness and skill transformed metal and wood into the very first car. When Daimler and Benz, once friendly rivals, finally merged in the year 1926, the world met the union of two visionaries, and Mercedes-Benz was born, its name already steeped in both elegance and grit. The best or nothing, that's the motto, and they mean it. You don't build the future by playing small, but let's meet the true pioneers. Carl Benz, in the year 1886, gave the world a new kind of freedom. A vehicle with 3 wheels, powered by a tiny gasoline engine, ready to whisk its passengers away at the breathtaking pace of a brisk bicycle ride. To modern eyes, it looked fragile, almost laughable. But for people used to dusty roads and the clip-clop of horses, it was a glimpse into tomorrow. Yet every great inventor needs an accomplice, and Carl's greatest ally was not another engineer, but his wife, Bertha Benz. If you think test drives are nerve-wracking today, imagine what it took in the year 1888. One morning, Bertha simply loaded her 2 sons into the patent motor wagon, left a note for Carl, and set off on a journey that would stretch over 100 kilometers. Her mission: to prove that this strange invention was not just a toy, but a true tool for everyday people. Along the way, she stopped at a pharmacy to refill the tank. Yes, pharmacies sold fuel in those days, used her hatpin to clean a clogged carburetor, and fixed a broken chain with her hairpin. Where some saw a clattering contraption, Bertha saw possibility, and her courage paved the way for the first real road trip in history. Thanks to her, the world finally saw what the future looked like, and decided it wanted in. Meanwhile, just across the industrial heartland, Gottlieb Daimler and Wilhelm Maybach were also consumed by the quest for speed, building engines that roared with promise. Their rivalry with Benz was friendly but fierce, each man pushing the other to new heights, until finally their paths converged, and the legend of Mercedes-Benz was set in motion. Every Mercedes is a rolling testament to the idea that innovation should never sleep. Throughout the 20th century, the brand became not just a byword for luxury, but a synonym for safety and invention. The first crumple zones, designed to protect passengers in a crash. Mercedes. The first anti-lock braking system, that silent guardian every time you hit the brakes on a rainy road. Mercedes again. Airbags, those unseen protectors waiting for the unthinkable. You guessed it, Mercedes. Fast forward to today, and the S-Class, the crown jewel, isn't just a car. It's a laboratory on wheels, quietly debuting tomorrow's technology before anyone else even dares to dream it. Electric cars with the elegance of silk, whisper quiet, and somehow even more commanding than their gas-powered ancestors. The EQ series, sleek and shimmering, and the experimental EQXX, already promising to glide for more than 1,000 kilometers on a single charge. Because luxury should never be limited by fear of the unknown. Factories still hum in Germany, where the precision of robots and the touch of master craftsmen mingle in a ballet of sparks and steel. Every model, from compact sedans to mighty SUVs, is built with an eye for detail that borders on obsession. Sustainability now stands at the heart of production, but always wrapped in soft leather and bathed in golden ambient light. Even the act of saving the planet, Mercedes seems to say, should feel extraordinary. And the legends? Let's step into the garage. The 300 SL Gullwing, with doors that open like the wings of an angel, became a symbol of both speed and style in the 1950s. The S-Class, a silent signal of success, the ride of presidents, celebrities, and anyone who wants the world to know they have arrived. The G-Class, affectionately known as the G-Wagon, began its life as a rugged off-roader for soldiers. But now it's more likely to be found purring in the glow of city lights, beloved by everyone from royalty to rappers. The AMG monsters, like the GT or the fearsome E55, marry grace and raw power in a way that makes even the bravest drivers break out in a grin. And today, the EQ models are setting the standard for what electric luxury can and should be, making even silence sound like a symphony. Owning a Mercedes is never just about transportation. It's a quiet declaration, a statement that you could have chosen anything, but you chose the star. Some companies expand for profit, but Mercedes-Benz expands with dignity. Having conquered the road, they look to the skies. Daimler engines once powered the famous Zeppelins, those floating giants of the early 20th century, drifting above continents with stately grandeur. Down on the ground, the brand's buses have ferried millions, their trucks have hauled the world's weight, and even the most utilitarian delivery van wears its star with pride. You may not have noticed, but you've probably sat behind the badge in a coach on a winding European road. Spaceships. Not yet, but given Mercedes' restless history, don't be surprised if one day that star finds its way into the heavens. And then there are the numbers. Though Mercedes rarely brags, millions of cars roll off the line each year, from the practical yet polished E-Class and C-Class. Favorites among professionals who appreciate sophistication over flash, to the mighty G-Wagon, somehow balancing its twin identities as both urban status symbol and genuine off-road brute. Despite global reach, the brand keeps its aura of exclusivity intact. Mercedes is everywhere, but every drive still feels personal, as if the car was made just for you. If you think Mercedes only shines in the showroom, think again. Motorsport is in their blood. The Silver Arrows, those sleek, unpainted racers of the 1930s, were bullets in motion, rewriting the definition of speed and style. After a break, Mercedes roared back into Formula One. And by the 2010s, they didn't just win, they redefined dominance. With legends like Lewis Hamilton behind the wheel, Mercedes-AMG Petronas collected championship after championship. Their blend of engineering and efficiency becoming the new gold standard. On every circuit, from grueling endurance races to furious sprints, the star always managed to find the front of the pack, proving that power and elegance are not just compatible, they're inseparable. Of course, even the brightest stars cast shadows. The story of Mercedes-Benz has its dark chapters. During the Second World War, like many German companies, Daimler-Benz was pulled into wartime production, a period marked by forced labor and choices that left deep scars. The company has acknowledged this legacy. But the shadows remain. reminding us that history's victories and tragedies are always entwined. In more recent times, scandals like Dieselgate splashed headlines around the globe. Though Volkswagen took the brunt, Mercedes' two-faced questions and fines about emissions, proof that even the most prestigious badges sometimes bend under pressure. The Maybach reboot of the early 2000s, a costly lesson that even Mercedes can misjudge what the ultra-rich desire, ended quietly. And now Maybach lives on as an exclusive trim, a jewel embedded within the familiar star. And if you've ever tried to pair your phone to a Mercedes infotainment system and felt like you needed a master's degree, you're not alone. German engineering, it seems, sometimes values precision over simplicity. But then, isn't it those tiny quirks, the stubborn refusal to compromise, that give a legend its humanity? So, as the gentle growl of an engine fades into night, let's pause beneath that three-pointed star and consider what it all means. Mercedes-Benz is more than a way to get from one place to another. It's about how you arrive. Calm, graceful, with just enough confidence to know that the road belongs to you, if only for a moment. It's a story of invention and reinvention, of people who looked at dusty roads and dared to imagine something better. From Carl and Bertha's wild adventure to the silent promise of an electric dawn, Mercedes-Benz continues to be more than metal and motors. It's the thrill you feel when your hand closes around a perfectly stitched wheel, the serenity that settles over you as the world blurs past, and you realize that, for a while, everything is in balance. So, as you let your thoughts drift into dreams tonight, imagine yourself gliding through a landscape made just for you. The road ahead unfolding smooth and silent, every detail designed to bring comfort and joy, every corner lit by the soft glow of a star, your star. Because with Mercedes-Benz, even your wildest dreams are invited to ride along, wrapped in comfort and whispered promises of excellence. Good night, dreamer. May your journey, on the road or in life, always be smooth, bold, and guided by a star of your own. Imagine, just for a moment, the world before the whir of engines and the honking of horns. There were no tangled highways, no glowing traffic lights, no familiar rumble beneath your feet. The air was filled only with the distant clatter of horse hooves, the soft chatter of neighbors, and maybe the occasional frustrated shout from someone dodging a runaway carriage. It was a quieter world, a slower world, a world on the verge of something extraordinary. Now let's meet a boy named Henry. Picture him, dusty hands tinkering with bits of metal, his mind already wandering far beyond the farm fields of Michigan. Young Henry Ford was restless, with pockets full of mechanical parts and a heart that beat to the rhythm of big ideas. He had something stubborn about him, too, the sort of grit that refuses to quit, even when every other voice says, "That's impossible." Where most people saw limits, Henry saw possibilities. And his greatest, what if, was simple. What if owning a car was not just a privilege for the wealthy, but a right for anyone with dreams and a little determination? So begins the story of how Ford didn't just build cars. He built the very roads under our feet, changing the world with every turn of a wrench. This isn't just the tale of a company, but of a movement that took millions from mud and dust into the age of steel and speed. Let's pause and talk about something curious: branding. Why do we care about the shape of a logo or the color of a badge? For Ford, the answer was never about roaring stallions or glittering shields. Henry Ford was far too practical for all that. The Ford logo. It's as simple as a signature, the kind you might find at the bottom of a handwritten letter. That familiar blue oval first appeared in the year 1927, and the flowing script, believe it or not, is modeled after Henry's own handwriting. When you saw that logo, it was like Henry himself was shaking your hand, saying, "Trust me, this machine will get you where you need to go, and maybe even a little farther." Slogans, Ford has had a handful. From "Built Ford Tough," a phrase that almost makes you feel like your car could survive a tornado, to go further. Each slogan whispered a kind of reliable magic. Not flashy, not loud, just there like an old friend who always shows up on time. Now, let's set the stage in the late 19th century. Imagine Henry, now a young man, hunched over a battered workbench in a shed somewhere in Michigan. He spends hours taking apart pocket watches just to see how they tick, always chasing the secret rhythm of moving parts. By the year 1896, after more than a few failed experiments, Henry had built his first car, the quadricycle. It looked a bit like 4 bicycle wheels in search of a purpose, with a steering tiller instead of a wheel and an engine that probably wheezed more than it roared. But here's the thing, it moved. The magic had begun. His first attempts at building a company didn't exactly set the world on fire. In fact, his very first company crumbled before the ink was even dry on the letterhead. But stubbornness, that old friend of dreamers, wouldn't let him give up. In the year 1903, Henry founded the Ford Motor Company. And a few short years later, in 1908, he changed everything. Enter the Model T. It didn't just look like the future. It was the future. Affordable, sturdy, ready for the ruts and dust of American roads, and famously available in any color you liked, so long as it was black. Those were Henry's own words. Because, really, who needs a rainbow when you're making history? But the real stroke of genius wasn't the car itself. It was how it was made. In the year 1913, Ford introduced the moving assembly line. Suddenly, cars didn't have to be handcrafted luxuries reserved for the elite. Now, vehicles could roll off the line in a steady stream, each one cheaper and quicker than the last. Ford wasn't just building machines. He was building freedom and putting it into the hands of ordinary people. For the first time, the same worker who bolted the wheels in the factory could save up and drive one home to his family. Let's not pretend Henry was all warmth and gentle smiles. He could be as hard as the bolts in his machines. But for all his quirks and contradictions, he gave the world a new rhythm. Wheels spinning, engines humming, horizons opening. Time sped forward. Through 2 world wars, the crushing weight of the Great Depression, and an occasional design choice that can only be called interesting. Yes, we're looking at you, wild designs of the 1970s, Ford kept rolling. Survival meant adaptation. Today, Ford stands at the crossroads of tradition and innovation. Electric dreams now purr beside gasoline giants. The Mustang Mach-E. Imagine telling someone in the year 1964 that a Mustang would one day run on batteries. Ford is chasing sustainability, sprinkling its huge factories with solar panels and green promises. The world has shifted, and Ford, as always, listens and adjusts. Americans wanted trucks and SUVs. Ford said, "All right, here's a whole fleet of F-150s, take your pick." Factories now stretch across continents, but the beating heart remains the same. Rows of workers, rivers of steel, the relentless march of invention. Even as software replaces carburetors and screens glow where once there were dials, the spirit, that hope of building something for everyone, endures. Now let's crack open the garage and peer inside at the legends. The Model T, without it, many of us would still be bouncing along dusty roads on horseback or pedaling bikes uphill with sweaty brows. The Ford Mustang, unveiled in the year 1964, it wasn't just a car, it was lightning in a bottle. Young and old, rich and not so rich, everyone wanted one. Affordable, thrilling, and yes, the star of many a midlife crisis. The Mustang raced right into American hearts and set up camp. Then the F-Series trucks, especially the mighty F-150, a vehicle that's been America's best-selling ride for over 4 decades. It's more than a truck. For many, it's part of the family. Whether hauling lumber to a job site, towing a boat for a weekend, or just gleaming in a driveway, it's a badge of pride. The Ford GT. Now that's a car built not for the faint-hearted, but for those who dream of beating the world's best, which it did, grinning at Le Mans in the year 1966. For those who love a bit of nostalgia with their morning coffee, Ford revived the Bronco, a name that makes everyone feel just a little wilder. Even if the wildest thing they do is drive to the nearest coffee shop. Ford's curiosity never stopped at cars. Trucks, absolutely. The Super Duty models are less vehicles and more like fortresses on wheels, ready to move houses if you ask nicely. Delivery vans, the transit line has become a blank canvas for delivery dreams and van life adventures. Motorbikes? No, Ford wisely left that to others. But the sky? Oh, Ford has touched the clouds. During the Second World War, Ford mass-produced airplane parts, including the legendary B-24 Liberator bombers. In those days, the company could churn out flying machines almost as quickly as cars. As for space, not yet, but who knows what dreams might yet be born beneath that blue oval. Ford isn't just a name, it's an avalanche of numbers. By the year 1927, over 15 million Model Ts had rolled out, changing landscapes from bustling cities to quiet prairies. The F-Series, still topping the charts year after year as America's favorite truck. That's not just popularity. That's what it looks like when an idea takes root and refuses to be forgotten. But even legends have their embarrassing moments. Ever heard of the Edsel? No, that's not surprising. Launched in the year 1957 with fireworks and fanfare, it landed with a thud. People just didn't want a car that looked like it was constantly surprised. And in the 1970s, the Ford Pinto became a cautionary tale. when cost-cutting led to a design that sometimes burst into flames during rear-end collisions. A secret memo revealed that it was cheaper to pay lawsuits than fix the problem. Ouch! There were tense moments, too. In the early 2000s, while rivals turned to the government for bailouts, Ford mortgaged everything, even the logo, to weather the financial storm. Risky, bold, but it worked. And when the dust cleared, Ford was still standing, ready to build the next dream. Now motorsport. This is where engines roar and egos go racing. The Ford GT40 designed with one goal to beat Ferrari at their own game. And did they ever? In the summer of 1966, at Le Mans, Ford's beautiful beast swept the podium, leaving Ferrari to eat dust and sparking a legend so big they even made a movie about it. On NASCAR ovals, Ford has battled for glory, sometimes with cars barely resembling those you'll find at your local dealership. And in rally racing, the feisty Ford Fiesta has proven that small cars can, in fact, fly, at least for a moment. But even the greatest builders are only human. Henry Ford himself was a genius, yes, but also a complicated man. His writings in the 1920s were tainted with anti-Semitism, a stain that reminds us brilliance can walk hand in hand with darkness. No story of Ford is complete without this honesty. And who could forget the infamous Edsel saga, a lesson in how too much market research and too little heart can lead even legends into a ditch. Sometimes the future looks bright on paper, but feels flat when the rubber meets the road. So, as the engines quiet and headlights fade into the evening, what did Ford really build? Not just cars or trucks, but the promise of freedom. The kind you feel with your hand out the window and the wind singing in your ears. Every ignition is a whisper of the past century's sweat, mistakes, and triumphs. Every journey, long or short, becomes a story waiting to be told. Maybe you drive a Ford. Maybe you just watch them glide by. Either way, tonight you know, beneath every blue oval is a tapestry of ambition, reinvention, and a fair bit of drama. So let the purr of an imaginary engine carry you to places you've never been. Thanks to Henry Ford and all who followed, the world became smaller, more connected, and every road became a path to somewhere new. Good night, dreamer. May your road be smooth, your tank never empty, and your dreams always big enough to fill the horizon. Let's drift away for a moment, dear dreamer, into a place where the roads don't just connect towns. They dance like brush strokes across rolling hills. Here, the air is heavy with the song of engines, not just noise, but real music, every exhaust note echoing like an aria in a midnight opera. This isn't a land of utility and chores. No, this is the kingdom of Ferrari, a realm where cars are born not from spreadsheets, but from a fevered imagination, from hands stained with oil and dreams that burn hotter than the midday sun on Italian tarmac. Ferrari. Even the name flickers like candlelight on marble. It's not about getting groceries or crawling through traffic. It's about feeling alive, trembling with anticipation, heart thumping as the revs climb higher, and for a split second the world falls away. A Ferrari in the wild is never just a car. It's a moving sculpture, ambition molded in scarlet, and a dash of mischief, too. You see, at the heart of every prancing horse beats a little bit of ego, that wonderful, audacious belief that the world deserves to stop and stare. And at the center of this story stands a man whose eyes could slice through steel, who lived and breathed speed, and who cared little for what the world expected. Enzo Ferrari. He wasn't born into fortune or privilege, but in a small corner of Modena in the final days of the 19th century. From the moment he heard the first race car thunder down a country road, young Enzo was lost, or maybe found, swept up in a whirlwind that would shape the future of racing. For Enzo, racing wasn't just a pastime, it was destiny. He tasted the thrill of the track as a driver in his youth, but somewhere along the way, he realized he was born not to chase the checkered flag, but to build the machines that crossed it first. With a heart full of defiance and a nose for opportunity, he formed Scuderia Ferrari in the year 1929, not to make cars, but to field racing teams. Road cars. He couldn't care less. But passion has a price, and fuel, tires, and glory don't pay for themselves. If a handful of wealthy enthusiasts wanted a slice of that racing magic for the street, well, Enzo would sell them a car. But only as much as necessary. The real business, he insisted, was winning. That's why Ferrari remains a contradiction wrapped in red leather. Every road car, from the earliest hand-built wonders to the latest futuristic marvels, exists for one reason: to keep the racing dreams alive. But what makes a Ferrari, you ask? Let's begin with the badge, that legendary prancing horse. It didn't start with Enzo. The symbol once soared through the sky, painted on the side of Francesco Baracca's World War I fighter plane. After the heroic pilot's death, his mother gifted the emblem to Enzo for luck. He took it, of course, and added a splash of yellow, the color of his beloved Modena. From that day forward, every Ferrari carried a little piece of courage, a hint of heartbreak, and the fierce pride of Italy. And the color, it could only be racing red, not because Enzo demanded it, but because that was Italy's official racing hue. Over time, the world called it Rosso Corsa, racing red, and Ferrari wore it like a family crest, a signature no other brand could fake. Ferrari never needed slogans. These machines speak for themselves. Yet phrases like "only those who dare truly live" swirl around Maranello like perfume on a summer breeze. Here, modesty is as rare as an empty grandstand on race day. Imagine for a moment that you are in the old workshop at Maranello, the air heavy with gasoline and hope. It's 1947. Outside, the world is rebuilding. Inside, a team of artisans works by hand, shaping metal and dreams into the very first true Ferrari, the 125S. There are no robots, no assembly lines. Just the sound of hammers, the hum of conversation, the occasional burst of laughter or argument. The car emerges, beautiful and ferocious, destined for the track, but coveted by the lucky few who could convince Enzo to part with one. Ferrari's story, though, isn't just speed and glamour. It's decades of heart-stopping victories, crushing defeats, and just the right amount of scandal. By the late 1960s, racing glory was expensive. The coffers ran thin, and so Fiat arrived, offering support. The deal was simple. Fiat would help keep the lights on. But Enzo kept a tight grip on the racing soul of the company. Enzo left the world in 1988, but his spirit lingers in every shriek of a V12, every shimmer of sunlight on red paint. These days, Ferrari is a publicly traded company, but don't be fooled. Maranello is still more fortress than factory, a place where tradition lives side by side with technology, where every car is a ticket to an exclusive club. Production is intentionally limited, scarcity wrapped in seduction. You don't just buy a Ferrari, you earn it, and sometimes the gatekeepers decide if you're worthy at all. In the present, Ferrari balances the old and new. Hybrid supercars like the SF90 Strato whisper that the future can still thrill. The first electric Ferrari is on the horizon. And while some purists wring their hands, others hold their breath, waiting to hear if electricity can sing like a 12-cylinder aria. Let's tiptoe into the dream garage. There's the 250 GTO, a masterpiece from the 1960s, so rare, so lusted after, that to see one in the wild is to witness a unicorn. It was built not for collectors, but for racing. Yet today, it's the crown jewel of any collection, auctioned for fortunes that would make even kings blush. Then comes the Testarossa, a flamboyant icon of the 1980s, all sharp angles and dramatic side strakes. The car of choice for dreamers, outlaws, and a few movie stars in white blazers. The F40, Enzo's swan song, was nothing but pure adrenaline, a car stripped of anything unnecessary, built for the road but born for the track. It's Enzo's last love letter, signed in tire smoke. Leap forward and meet the LaFerrari, a name so bold it dares to be the Ferrari. A marriage of electric wizardry and roaring V12 thunder, it is proof that tradition and innovation can coexist in one spine-tingling package. And of course, there's the timeless 458 Italia and the wild 812 super fast, because subtlety has never lived in Maranello. Every Ferrari is more than the sum of its parts. It's a rolling love letter to Italy, a confession of longing, a declaration of joy. To sit in one is to hold a piece of history, to taste the thrill of 100 races, to carry a slice of the sun-drenched Mediterranean under your own two hands. While other brands fill the world with trucks and vans and hatchbacks, Ferrari stays delightfully stubborn. There will be no pickup, no affordable city car, no tractor with a prancing horse. If it's not fast, not red, and not a little bit impractical, Maranello simply isn't interested. Yet Ferrari does love a challenge. When they do step outside the ordinary, it's for the racetrack. Their other vehicles are almost always draped in racing numbers, not license plates. And if you want a taste of Ferrari's wild side, consider the Pan American Adventure, a custom Ferrari built to roar 20,000 miles across 2 continents, simply because even legends enjoy a good road trip now and then. The brand's reach extends beyond the garage, too. There's Ferrari World, a theme park in Abu Dhabi, roller coasters painted red, a universe where even the souvenirs carry a scent of gasoline and adventure. But at its heart, Ferrari isn't about volume. Every year, just about 10,000 cars emerge from the gates by choice, not by limit. Scarcity is part of the spell. Could they make more? Certainly. Would they? Never. That longing, that ache to be part of something special, is as crucial to the brand as the roar of the engine. This is why Ferrari, despite building only a handful of cars, stands as one of the most profitable names in the world. When collectors fight for old Ferraris, prices spiral into the stratosphere. Owning one is like holding a Rembrandt or a Stradivarius, but with more horses. And yes, sometimes Ferrari refuses to sell to celebrities they deem too flashy. In Maranello, you don't own the car owns you. Ferrari's true heart is shaped like a racetrack. Before they were building cars for the road, they were building racing legends. Formula One is their spiritual home. Since the very first championship in 1950, Ferrari has chased glory, amassing more titles, more victories, more heartbreak than any other name in the game. From the wild days of Michael Schumacher's dominance to the passionate crowds of Tifosi waving red flags in sun or rain, Ferrari lives for the thrill of the fight. Of course, the story isn't all victory parades. There have been bitter losses, heartbreaks, political feuds, and more than a few spicy radio messages. Enzo himself was notorious for stoking rivalries among his drivers, believing that a little conflict would drive them to the edge. Sometimes perfection is boring. It's the scars, the stubbornness, and the drama that keep Ferrari's legend alive. Gossip, you say? Ferrari has its fair share. There's the secret blacklist for buyers, the outrage over celebrities who dare to bedazzle their cars, the internal wars over the company's first SUV. A move so controversial that some say Enzo himself would haunt the boardroom if he could. And of course, the notorious Formula One scandals, the whispered stories of spies and sabotage. Because in Maranello, even the mistakes become part of the legend. Now, as the night hushes and the last echo of a V12 fades beneath the Mediterranean stars, let's ask, what does Ferrari really mean? It's more than speed, more than luxury, more even than heritage. It's a dream made real, a symbol that reminds us why we crave beauty, why we chase impossible things, and why, even if we never own one, we feel a little more alive just seeing one blur past, scarlet in the sunlight. Tonight, as you drift off to sleep, let yourself imagine the world seen through a Ferrari windshield. The road ahead curves like destiny, the air shimmers with hope, and somewhere out there, the engine's song is waiting for you. Because Ferrari isn't just a car. It's the promise that life, for all its risks and heartbreaks, can still be extraordinary. Good night, dreamer. May your dreams be fast, bold, and forever brushed with the red of Italian sunsets. Let yourself drift away, dreamer, into a world where engines do not roar but whisper, where the most beautiful thing about a car is not how loud it is or how many people turn to look, but how reliably it carries you through the rhythm of ordinary days. Here, among quiet streets, rice fields shimmering in the morning sun, and lanterns glowing softly in evening rain. The legend of Toyota quietly takes root, not with thunder, but with a steady, unwavering hum. Toyota is the brand that never needed to shout. While others flashed their badges, revved their engines, or chased headlines with outlandish designs, Toyota became the heart of the road by simply doing what it promised. Always, everywhere, every time. There's a quiet confidence in this, the kind that comes not from boasting, but from never letting you down. But do not be fooled by that calm, trustworthy smile. Beneath the surface of this brand is a story woven with resilience, invention, and a pinch of Japanese superstition. And believe it or not, it all began with looms, not wheels. Imagine a dusty village in Japan almost a century ago, where a family named Toyota spun magic from thread, building automatic looms that could almost think for themselves. The father, Sakichi, was a gentle genius who saw beauty in how things moved, how machines could free hands and minds. His son, Kiyokiro, inherited this gift, but his eyes sparkled with dreams of roads, not fabrics. In the 1930s, while the world seemed to rush towards war, Kiyokiro dreamed quietly of 4 wheels carrying hope across Japan. So he pivoted the family business from weaving cloth to building cars. It was a leap of faith, a gentle rebellion. In the early years, Toyota wasn't trying to conquer the globe. Their goal was simple: to build vehicles that could be trusted by ordinary Japanese families. Their first passenger car, the Model A, was a humble nod to American designs, but it was sturdy, dependable, and a promise of things to come. The war years were difficult. The factories nearly fell silent. But when peace returned, Japan needed to rebuild, and Toyota rolled up its sleeves, quietly filling the country with trucks and small cars. The kind you could fix with your own hands, the kind that didn't care about bumpy roads or cold mornings. What truly set Toyota apart, though, wasn't flashy inventions or bold risks, but a simple, stubborn devotion to improvement. Kaizen, they called it, the art of making things better, step by tiny step, day after quiet day. In Toyota's world, every worker's idea mattered, every process could be polished, every car made just a little bit more perfect. And this quiet discipline was their magic. Decades passed. The world changed, and so did Toyota, but not their spirit. By the 1980s, Toyota had crept into American hearts and driveways, not with power or glitz, but with cars like the Camry and Corolla. Machines that never left you stranded. Cars that simply worked every morning, every season. You could say Toyota became the automotive equivalent of a loyal friend who is never late, never lets you down, and always answers the phone. But even the most sensible friend has a wild side. Enter the Supra, a flash of red in the midnight city, a car that found its way into movies, video games, and the hearts of drivers who loved a little adventure with their reliability. The Supra whispered to the dreamers, yes, even the quiet ones can race. And then there was the Land Cruiser, a legend born for deserts, jungles, and mountains. If the world were ever to end, the last 2 survivors would probably cross paths in battered Land Cruisers. And the Prius. Oh, the Prius. When it first appeared in the late 90s, other companies laughed. A car that ran on batteries and gas. Too weird, too slow, too green. But Toyota was patient, letting the world catch up. Now nearly every automaker is chasing hybrids, and the Prius is a silent hero, a gentle revolution on wheels. You see, Toyota's genius is not just in what they build, but how they build it. Their factories hum like clockwork, every bolt tightened with care, every process questioned and improved. Sustainability is not a trend, but a habit, like folding the same paper crane every morning, just to get the shape a little closer to perfect. But the world does not stand still. Today, Toyota is balancing on the thin line between tradition and transformation. They've quietly embraced hydrogen, electricity, even robotics. In the shadow of Mount Fuji, they are building Woven City, not just a factory, but a living laboratory where houses, cars, robots, and people mingle in peaceful harmony. Imagine a place where self-driving cars slip through silent streets, where your home talks to your vehicle, where the whole city moves as smoothly as the finest loom. That's Toyota's next dream. And yes, they've made robots, but the kind that help, not harm. Human support robots ready to fetch, to lift, to bring comfort and independence to the elderly. Because why build machines that threaten when you can build ones that hold your hand? Toyota's numbers are as quiet as they are staggering. Year after year, they dance with Volkswagen at the very top of the global sales charts. Over 10 million cars each year, imagine, more than the entire population of some countries. The humble Corolla alone has sold more than 50 million units. That's more than some brands have ever dreamed of. And every time it's the same promise. Turn the key and it will start. Drive and it will go. Rain or snow, traffic or open highway, you will not be alone. Even Toyota, for all its careful planning, has stumbled. There was the unintended acceleration crisis, when fears about runaway cars spread panic, lawsuits, apologies. Most issues traced back to floor mats, to driver error, but the lesson was clear. Even the most careful hands can slip. Toyota apologized, learned, and quietly returned to Kaizen, making each part a little better, each system a bit safer. And as the world rushes to embrace electric cars, Toyota has moved at its own pace. Critics call them slow. Toyota calls it wisdom. Why sprint when you can march forever? But now even Toyota is picking up the pace, unveiling a new line of electric vehicles. Still quietly, still thoughtfully, but at last catching the world's rhythm. Racing, of course, Toyota races. They just do it their way. The Yaris GR, a tiny hatchback tuned into a rally beast, wins championships and winks at grocery shoppers. The Supra. It became a legend not by being the fastest, but by being the most soulful. And at Le Mans, Toyota finally tasted victory after years of heartbreak, with hybrids that could run fast and run clean. Proving even at 300 kilometers per hour, efficiency can win. So what did Toyota really give us, dreamer? Not just cars, not just hybrids, not just robots. Toyota built confidence, the calm certainty that you will get where you need to go, that the wheels beneath you will not falter, that even in a noisy, unpredictable world, there are still some things you can count on. As the day fades and your imaginary Prius hums into the night, let yourself picture a road that never breaks down, a car that never needs to boast, a journey that's always smooth and sure. Because not every dream has to roar. Some dreams are soft, some are steady. Some, like Toyota, just keep going. Good night, dear dreamer. May your journeys be gentle, your tank always full. Cyrillic letter 456, and yeka kratkoi de aerogabeu de ye Cyrillic letter 456, ven are you. Yaka ke eri el ape ye erove ogeoge u ave elika. Close your eyes and slip quietly onto an English lane, the air cool and scented with fresh-cut grass. A faint whisper of leather and old cologne drifting from somewhere behind you. This isn't just a car journey. It's an invitation to a world where elegance always arrives a step ahead of speed, and adventure lurks behind every neatly trimmed hedge. In this story, the car you drive says more about you than 1,000 business cards. This is the legend of Aston Martin, the car that doesn't so much announce itself as glide by, leaving onlookers wondering if they've just caught a glimpse of a secret agent. There's nothing flashy here, nothing gaudy. The badge on the nose isn't an animal or a screaming emblem, just a pair of quiet wings, as if the car might gently lift from the ground and disappear into the morning mist. Over the years, the logo has changed its line, but never its mood. Always a hint of silver, a breath of mystery. The name itself was born in the English hills, plucked from the Aston Hill climb and combined with the proud surname of Lionel Martin, a man with the stubborn conviction that driving should always be an event, not just a routine. Aston Martin didn't emerge from some vast industrial empire or thunder into life with mass production. It was handcrafted in workshops that smelled of oil and afternoon tea, the brainchild of Lionel Martin and Robert Bamford, two Englishmen who believed that cars could be as beautiful as poetry and as thrilling as a midnight duel. Their earliest creations were delicate, swift, and just a bit rebellious. The kind of vehicles you'd expect to find racing along foggy backroads, pursued only by the moon. Of course, no English romance is complete without a few storms. Almost as soon as Aston Martin began, the world erupted into war. Factories stood silent. When peace returned, the company revived itself with a sigh, like a hero adjusting his tie after a near miss. But profit was always elusive, and in the roaring 20s, Aston Martin faced its first tumble off the financial cliff. That wouldn't be the last. Like any true British hero, the company has spent the last century learning to fall and rise again. Every comeback accompanied by a wry smile and the gleam of fresh polish. There is something irresistible about a survivor. Decade after decade, Aston Martin changed hands, weathered bankruptcies, and flirted with disaster, yet always returned, looking sharper and somehow more determined. In the late 1980s, Ford arrived with a much-needed lifeline and a sense of American optimism. Soon after, the brand found its stride again, blending classic British lines with modern engineering, producing cars that felt like tailored suits and tasted like fine whiskey. Today, Aston Martin stands apart, never chasing trends, but refining its own language of beauty and danger. Their models aren't cranked out by the million. No, these cars are deliberately rare, each one built as much for glances as for miles, every stitch in the leather a tiny act of devotion. The DBX, an elegant SUV for those whose adventures require both glamour and luggage space, and plans for electrification. Yes, even secret agents must think green now and then. But step back, and you'll see what makes Aston Martin more than just another luxury badge. Their cars are less about horsepower than about possibility. When you slip behind the wheel, you don't just drive, you join a secret society. The DB5 is more than metal and paint. It's the world's most famous getaway car, its curves and gadgets immortalized in the glint of Bond's raised eyebrow. There's the V8 Vantage, Britain's first real supercar, a vehicle with the shoulders of a prizefighter and the manners of a duke. The DB9 and DB11 carried the flag onward, each new model a masterclass in understatement and seduction. And sometimes, Aston Martin throws away the script entirely. The 177, a car so exclusive only 77 exist, each one a collector's fever dream. Or the Valkyrie and Valhalla, names borrowed from legend for cars that look ready to race gods across the clouds. Yet, for all the elegance, the story would be incomplete without a little mischief. Aston Martin doesn't just build cars. Why not try submarines? Yes, in partnership with Triton, they built Project Neptune, because sometimes a gentleman needs to make an entrance beneath the waves. Or luxury apartments in Miami, where every detail is polished to match the chrome of a DB11 dashboard. Or even the occasional helicopter, for those who believe traffic jams are for mere mortals. Let's not forget, this is a brand that's measured not by sales charts, but by the gasps it inspires. 6,000 or maybe 7,000 cars a year, each one rare enough to turn a sidewalk into a red carpet. Mass production. Aston Martin would rather risk bankruptcy. And indeed, that's a dance they've perfected over the years. 7 changes of ownership, several brushes with extinction, and still, the brand rises, always with that signature blend of charm and audacity. And the secret: Aston Martin's heart beats loudest on the racetrack. From the wild days of the 1920s Grand Prix to the thunderous victory at Le Mans in 1959, the marque has always chased not just trophies, but style points. In recent years, they've roared back into Formula One, those British green machines carving through the pack with the grace of a ballroom dancer and the determination of a street fighter. While others race to win, Aston Martin races to look unforgettable. But even in perfection, there are quirks. There was the Signet, a dainty city car that wore a Toyota suit beneath its bespoke tuxedo, a charming oddity born to satisfy emissions rules. There are the legendary delays as customers wait, sometimes impatiently, for the next masterpiece. For with Aston Martin, art refuses to be rushed. And sometimes, under the hood, you'll find a little German precision, courtesy of Mercedes-AMG. The purists might grumble, but Aston Martin just smiles, straightens its tie, and carries on. So, as the moonlight drips off polished silver and the deep growl of a V12 fades into memory, ask yourself, what is Aston Martin really about? It's not just speed or luxury. It's a promise that life can be lived as an adventure. That every day, no matter how ordinary, can begin with the turning of a key and the click of a well-cut cufflink. Aston Martin is elegance stitched together with rebellion, a phoenix that always returns, no matter how many times it's been knocked down. As you drift off tonight, imagine a winding country lane, the hedgerows blurring past, the scent of wet earth rising, and you, the star of your own secret story, unhurried and undaunted. Good night, dreamer. May your dreams be fast, your journeys elegant, and your soul always dressed in silver birch. Let's slip into the neon hush of a Silicon Valley evening, where ideas move as fast as code, and cars drift by on silent, electric wheels. Here, under a sky pixelated with satellites and Wi-Fi signals, a new legend was born, one that didn't come from Detroit steel or century-old dynasties, but from espresso-fueled all-nighters and the minds of engineers who believed the future should glow a little greener, a little weirder, a lot faster. This is the story of Tesla, Dreamer, the brand that turned every parking lot into a tech meetup, every test drive into a viral event, and every road trip into a quest for the next supercharger. In a world of gas and noise, Tesla promised a new kind of quiet, the kind that hums with possibility, flickers with anticipation, and sometimes, just sometimes, goes a little off script. Forget about roaring logos or family names in chrome. Tesla's badge is a riddle wrapped in a line, a T that is both letter and cross-section, half motor, half symbol. No lions, no horses, just a nod to Nikola Tesla, the wizard of electricity, and maybe a wink to every underdog who ever wanted to see their name in lights. Tesla doesn't need a slogan. When you build cars that update themselves overnight, the tagline practically writes itself. Sometimes it's accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. Sometimes it's just faster than yesterday. In reality, it's the unspoken promise that your next road trip could be powered by sunlight and software, if you're brave enough to press Update Now. The journey began not in a family garage, but in a world of burning cash and Silicon Valley hope. It's 2003. A handful of engineers, some optimistic, some slightly mad, start building electric cars. The dream teeters on the edge of collapse until a certain Elon Musk steps in, flings his last fortune on the table, and refuses to blink. Why keep your retirement safe when you could, instead, gamble it on battery cells, rockets, and memes? Tesla's first shot was the Roadster, an electric sports car that looked like it had just left a tech convention and crashed a supercar party. It was wild, it was fast, it barely made it. By the time the money ran out, Tesla was a tweet away from vanishing. But the Roadster proved something magical. Electricity could be exciting. That alone was enough to keep the dream alive. Then came the Model S in 2012, a car that didn't just compete, it rebooted the game. Smooth, silent, shockingly quick, It turned heads on the street and silenced every critic who thought electric meant boring. Model X swooped in with doors that defied both gravity and parking garages. Model 3 made electric cool for the crowd, and Model Y. Just another letter in Elon's silent joke, spelling out S3XY for anyone paying attention. Tesla wasn't just building cars. It was building a tribe. Every new update dropped like a mixtape, every new feature turning drivers into beta testers and beta testers into evangelists. A world where your dashboard changes overnight and autopilot might actually work tomorrow, or the day after, or maybe next year. Owners didn't just buy cars. They joined the world's fastest-growing tech club, where every issue was just a software thing, and every road trip an adventure in range anxiety and digital hope. And Tesla's ambitions didn't stop at the driveway. There's Powerwall, a sleek battery for your living room, saving sunshine for stormy nights. Solar roofs that look like ordinary tiles but quietly sip sunlight. And just to keep things interesting, Optimus, the humanoid robot that, for now, mostly dances, but promises to someday take out the trash or make you tea. If you believe, of course. Even space isn't off limits. Sure, Tesla doesn't have a rocket, but when you're family with SpaceX, you can send your own car into orbit just for the meme. Somewhere, right now, a cherry-red roadster floats through the darkness, a cosmic billboard for wild ideas. But numbers, oh, the numbers. For a company that's brushed bankruptcy more times than it's released patch notes, Tesla somehow became the world's most valuable automaker by market cap. More than Toyota, more than Volkswagen. Maybe it's the vibes. Maybe it's Elon's Twitter feed. Maybe it's just that sometimes the wildest dreams win. Today, Tesla builds nearly 2 million cars a year. The Model Y became the world's best-selling car in 2023. Not just the top electric, but the top of everything. And they did it without a penny spent on old-school ads. Their marketing is pure chaos. Launch a spaceship, break a window on stage, let the internet lose its mind, sell out anyway. But it's not all smooth code and green lights. Autopilot, a name that promises more than it delivers. Lawsuits, investigations, and those full self-driving coming soon, claims that stretch on like a road through the Nevada desert. Build quality? Sometimes you get perfect panel gaps. Sometimes your window doesn't quite, window. But in the Tesla world, every glitch is just another chapter in the adventure. And then there's Elon Musk. Brilliant, unpredictable, the main character in every drama. His tweets make stock prices jump, his interviews make news, his memes become company folklore. Love him, hate him, or just watch in awe, Tesla and Musk are inseparable. Two parts of a machine that only runs at full throttle. Motorsport, Tesla doesn't do Formula One, too old school, but a Model S Plaid on a drag strip, it'll outrun nearly anything quietly, almost mockingly. The Plaid mode, a nod to a sci-fi comedy, breaks records for fun. Tesla isn't racing for trophies. They're racing for headlines, for viral moments, for the chance to say, "We did it because we could." So what does Tesla really build, dreamer? Not just cars, not just batteries, not even just robots. Tesla builds futures messy, sometimes buggy, always fascinating. They ask the world to believe that the next big leap is just an update away. That cars can get smarter after you buy them. That dreams don't need an exhaust pipe to leave a mark. As the city dims and your imaginary Tesla glides through silent streets, the world feels a little brighter, a little more possible. Maybe the road ahead is uncertain, maybe the autopilot's not perfect, but there's a spark here, the kind that comes when someone says, "Why not?" and actually means it. So as you fall asleep, picture yourself floating down an endless electric boulevard, the skyline full of hope, your hands free, your mind open, the world still a work in progress. Because with Tesla, the story is never finished, and that, dear dreamer, is where all the best adventures begin. Picture this, dreamer. The sky just waking over Bavaria, the world still wrapped in a blue-gray haze. Somewhere deep in Munich, an engine purrs to life, not a roar, not a bark, but a confident, silky note, like a maestro tuning up before the concert. This is BMW, a brand born for those who see every empty road as an invitation, not just a means to an end. There's a certain magic in that roundel on the hood, blue and white spinning together. Some say it's a propeller, an echo of the brand's first days in the clouds. Others know it's the flag of Bavaria, a little piece of home for every car that slips out the factory gates. But either way, that logo isn't just a badge. It's a promise that the journey between A and B can be the best part of your day. Bayerisch motoren work. Even the name hums with promise. It's the kind of title that asks you to clear your throat before you say it, that lingers in the mind long after the car is gone. When you buy a BMW, you're buying a slice of Munich's history. And maybe, just maybe, a little bit of that Bavarian stubbornness that refuses to make anything less than the ultimate driving machine. Let's wind the clock back, all the way to 1916, when the world was still caught in the First Great War. BMW began with engines for airplanes, helping pilots chase the clouds. When the guns fell silent, restrictions forced the brand back down to earth. But true passion doesn't quit, it pivots. Soon, BMW was crafting motorcycles that zipped through cobblestone streets. And by the late 1920s, their first cars arrived. They were compact, a little British in their bones, but full of ambition. The journey wasn't all speed and sunshine. The 30s brought elegant cars and legendary bikes, but war returned, and with it, the old demands for aircraft engines. The brand doesn't linger on this chapter. Some stories are told in a whisper, not a shout. After the world turned right side up again, the BMW factories stood battered and bruised. The future looked uncertain. What now? You start small, you start humble with a bubble car called Isetta, perfect for post-war streets, a gentle rebirth for a company built to soar. Then came the 60s, the decade where BMW found its soul. Sporty sedans that danced between luxury and speed, cars that made every school run or business meeting feel like a victory lap. The new class saved the company and set the template for what a BMW should be. And then, in the 70s, the 3 Series was born. If you've ever seen a car whip through a corner like it's flirting with the horizon, you know what came next. The 3 Series wasn't just a car, it was a movement. BMW didn't stop at one success. They kept sculpting experiences, not just vehicles. The 5 Series became the go-to for executives who wanted a little adrenaline in their commute. The 7 Series arrived for those who liked their luxury with a side of authority. And in the shadows, the M division began. Engineers with wild ideas and wilder eyes, determined to turn race cars into everyday dreams. Imagine, for a moment, slipping into an E30 M3. Your fingers on a steering wheel worn just right, the straight 6 engine humming beneath you, the promise of the road stretching ahead like a silver ribbon. Or maybe it's the E39 M5, sharp as a suit, hiding a wolfish snarl beneath all that businesslike charm. Even today, the 3 Series still whispers, "You can trust me," while the 7 Series gently asks, "Would you like to drive or be driven?" And then came the future, roaring in with electric dreams and bold new shapes. The i8 half spaceship, half sports car, looked like it time-traveled from another world. The i4 and iX, machines that say sustainability with a wink and a burst of acceleration. BMW keeps the purists happy with rear-wheel drive and engines that purr like old friends, while still tipping a hat to tomorrow with hybrids and clean tech. But BMW isn't just about cars. The Moto division crafts motorcycles that can cross continents without breaking a sweat. There's the Mini, that cheeky British legend, now with German engineering under its playful paint. Rolls-Royce. BMW stands quietly behind the curtain, making sure the world's most luxurious cars whisper instead of shout. Once, they even made jet engines again, because when you love speed, the sky is never far away. Numbers, BMW doesn't flood the roads, but each year more than 2.5 million cars leave their showrooms, ready to turn commutes into concerts. The 3 Series is a global star, the X5 and X3 SUVs, or as BMW calls them, sports activity vehicles, rule the urban jungle and the open road alike. Prestige, yes. Mass market, never. On the racetrack, BMW lives for the chase. Touring cars, GT series, even a dramatic stint in Formula One. The M division, born in the early 70s, took racing lessons and turned them into everyday thrills. The M1, the only true BMW supercar, is a rare legend. The modern M cars. They turn every red light into a countdown. But dear dreamer, no story is flawless. Somewhere along the Autobahn, BMW drivers earned a reputation fast, maybe a bit too eager, sometimes forgetting the turn signal, sometimes tailgating like it's a contact sport. Then there's the grille, those famous kidneys. Have grown so much in recent years that they could host a family reunion. Critics grumble, fans debate, but BMW simply shrugs and says, bold is better. Manual gearboxes nearly vanished, but thankfully, passion won that round, and the stick shift still lives on. And of course, the occasional recall, the environmental criticisms, the pride that sometimes slips into arrogance. But maybe that's all part of the BMW story, a company that believes in itself, sometimes stubbornly, always passionately. So as night falls and the last notes of a straight six fade under a velvet Bavarian sky, ask yourself, what is BMW really about? It's not just a badge, not just a machine. It's a philosophy that every drive should spark joy, that every turn deserves a little music, that no matter where you go, the journey is the point. Tonight, imagine yourself on an endless stretch of Autobahn. The wind in your hair, the world rushing by in a blur of possibility, and the engine singing just for you. Because with BMW, you're not just driving, you're alive in every moment. Good night, dreamer. May your journeys be smooth, your heart light. Cyrillic letter 456. Enyeka kratkoi kaoje enadeo erogave yedeo eradeos test Cyrillic letter 456. Close your eyes, dreamer, and let's roll out onto a wide American boulevard, where every mile is long and every city light flickers like a promise. This is no tight European alley. Here, the road is your stage. The sky is impossibly big. And if you're behind the wheel of a Cadillac, you're not just traveling, you're making an entrance. There's something different about Cadillac. It doesn't whisper luxury, it announces it with a coat of arms on the grille, a crown on its crest, and just enough European flair to make every street feel like a red carpet. The name, borrowed from Antoine de la Mothe Cadillac, the French explorer who once founded Detroit itself. From day one, the badge was chosen for maximum impact, a blend of old-world sophistication and new American swagger. When you drive a Cadillac, you're never just getting somewhere. You've already arrived. Chrome glints under neon lights, the engine purrs with a baritone rumble, and the seats feel like velvet and dreams. In the roaring 20s, jazz clubs flashed past Cadillac windows. In the 50s, tail fins soared like wings, and every inch of the car seemed dipped in sunlight and optimism. Imagine it now. The long, sleek hood of an El Dorado slicing through dusk, or the stately presence of a Fleetwood pulling up to a grand hotel. The air smells like fresh gasoline, leather, and hope. Cadillac didn't just follow trends, it set them. In the early days, Henry Leland, a precision engineer who believed every part should fit together like the gears of a Swiss watch, took over what was left of Henry Ford's old company and turned it into the gold standard. By the time the world blinked, Cadillac had become the first to mass-produce cars with interchangeable parts. That was more than a century ago, but the idea stuck. Every Cadillac must be a little masterpiece, a rolling statement of "look at me." Innovation was never just for show. In 1915, Cadillac introduced the first mass-produced V8 engine. In the 40s and 50s, they made power steering, automatic transmissions, and air conditioning common long before their competitors. Each advance was wrapped in chrome and stretched steel. Bold, brash, and unashamedly beautiful. Let's peek into Cadillac's golden garage. Picture the 1959 El Dorado, tail fins so high they might catch the last rays of the sun. The Fleetwood Series 75, impossibly long and impossibly dignified. Or the Coupe de Ville, a classic name that brought luxury to the everyday American, parked outside homes filled with laughter and ambition. Fast forward to the 90s, and the Escalade roared onto the scene, turning every family drive and every celebrity arrival into a parade. Suddenly, Cadillac wasn't just for presidents or crooners. It was for anyone who wanted to ride a little higher, shine a little brighter. But Cadillac never stopped at cars. Why limit luxury to the road? There were limousines, so long they needed their own zip code, and concept cars like the legendary 16 cylinders, one car, zero apologies. The Escalade became a music video icon, the go-to ride for anyone with a taste for the spotlight and a playlist full of dreams. They even dipped into fashion, watches, and furniture. Because why not let your living room match your driveway? Numbers tell their own story. At its peak, Cadillac sold hundreds of thousands of cars each year, the undisputed king of American luxury. But every parade hits a patch of rain. By the 80s and 90s, European brands started to catch up, showing the world that luxury could also mean precision, performance, and refinement. Cadillac shrank, literally and figuratively. Smaller cars, front-wheel drive, and a few questionable style choices. Remember the Cimarron. Neither does Cadillac, if they can help it. The diesel experiments? Maybe let's just say not every risk pays off. Yet what makes Cadillac special is its refusal to disappear. Again and again, when the critics wrote them off, Cadillac answered with something bold. A V-Series rocket sedan, an Escalade on 24-inch chrome, or now, electric dreams like the Lyric and Celestiq. That's the Cadillac way. When you fall, you rise with even more swagger. Even on the racetrack, Cadillac finds a way to surprise. The V-Series flipped the script, putting Corvette power into 4 doors and showing Europe that American luxury could also eat up corners. The Blackwing models now blend buttery leather with track-ready performance. Imagine gliding through a city at night, the world blurring outside while your Cadillac whispers, "Don't just drive, dazzle." But Cadillac's quirks are part of its charm. Downsizing in the 70s and 80s gave us cars that lost their grandeur, but never their heart. The Cimarron tried to be something it wasn't, and diesel nearly broke the magic. And yet, Cadillac's secret is that it always comes back, louder, longer, more daring than before. So, dear dreamer, as the sunset bathes the open highway in gold, and the low rumble of a Cadillac V8 fades into the night, remember what this brand really stands for. It's about more than transportation. It's about making every journey feel like a celebration, about daring to be grand, about rolling through life as the star of your own movie. Cadillac is comfort and presence, aspiration and arrival, an open invitation to live a little louder and dream a little bigger. Tonight, as you drift off, picture yourself gliding beneath the neon, tail fins cutting the dark, with nothing ahead but endless American promise. With Cadillac, every trip is a parade, and you, dreamer, are always the guest of honor. Imagine the hush before sunrise, the world still blue and waiting. There's a cold key in your palm, a gentle vibration through your fingertips, the anticipation of ignition. You slide behind the wheel, and in that instant, you know this isn't just a machine. This is a promise. This is Porsche. Now close your eyes and picture a winding road cut through emerald hills, the asphalt curling in front of you like a black ribbon. Every turn, every breath of air through the window is an invitation to feel alive. Porsche doesn't shout, doesn't need to. It glides by, whispering perfection at exactly the right volume. The badge on the hood is bold and proud. A golden coat of arms with the prancing horse, Stuttgart's symbol, set against the sharp red and black of Württemberg. It's not just a logo, it's a little piece of German history. The spirit of precision, a glimmer of pride, and the unspoken promise that every bolt, every weld, every gentle curve was placed with purpose. The name on the back, Porsche, when your founder was an engineering genius like Ferdinand Porsche. You let the name do the talking. Let's step back in time. Ferdinand Porsche, born at the edge of the 19th century, was obsessed with finding the perfect balance between power and control. Before the world knew about electric dreams, he was already building electric cars. He drew the blueprint for the people's car, the Volkswagen Beetle, and when war faded, his son Ferry took up the torch, but with a stubborn twist. Ferry wanted a car that he himself longed to drive, and when he couldn't find it, he built it. The result, the 356. Lightweight, nimble, elegant. A car that didn't try to dominate the road, just to dance with it. What started as a small workshop in Gmund became a quiet revolution. Porsche proved that more doesn't always mean better. Sometimes, less weight and more feeling win the race. By the 1960s, the world met the 911, that iconic rear-engine masterpiece, a car whose silhouette became a global icon. By all logic, a rear engine should have spelled disaster, but the engineers refused to listen to logic. They listened to instinct, and the 911 thrived. Each generation kept its soul, its curve, its stubborn joy. Every Porsche is a paradox. It is disciplined yet wild, minimalist yet luxurious, modern but always grounded in tradition. When other car makers chased trends, Porsche chose evolution. Year after year, the 911 returned, each time a little sharper, a little wiser, but never losing the DNA of the very first model. Let's take a drive through the Porsche Dream Garage. There's the 356, the original legend. The 911, which year after year becomes more than just a car, it's a statement, a friend, a lifetime partner. The 918 Spider, a wild, futuristic machine that whispered the future would be fast and electric. Then there's the Cayenne, Porsche's leap into the unknown, an SUV that purists doubted, but which ended up saving the brand, teaching the world that practicality can still make your heart skip a beat. The Panamera for those who crave the thrill but need room for the whole family. And now the Taycan, pure electricity, pure Porsche, proof that silence can still race your pulse. But it's not just the machines, it's the feeling. Imagine that moment when you press the throttle and the world suddenly sharpens. Your body leans into a corner. The flat-six engine behind you sings a note somewhere between a growl and a promise. Even the air seems different, charged with possibility. Maybe you've never driven a Porsche. Maybe you only caught one blur past you on a night road. but the feeling stays with you. Porsche is not about showing off. It's about showing up for yourself, about choosing joy every time you turn the key. The company might build over 300,000 cars a year now, but everyone still feels personal, built by hands and hearts that care. In every workshop, in every factory, there's a belief. Machines build cars, but only passion crafts a Porsche. Porsche isn't just a brand, it's a legend that refuses to stop. In the 2000s, when fortunes were shaky, they launched the Cayenne, an off-road machine that became a runaway hit, bringing Porsche to city streets and mountain passes all over the world. The Macan followed, nimble and fierce, perfect for the city adventurer. Even their options list is legendary. You can make your Porsche as unique as your fingerprint, from stitching color to a dashboard clock. And then, of course, there's racing. Porsche's soul has always belonged on the track. From the 1950s, they rewrote the rules at Le Mans, not with the fastest cars, but with the smartest, the most reliable. 19 overall wins, more than any other brand. The 917, the 956, the 962, these aren't just numbers, they're chapters in motorsport history. For Porsche, winning isn't just about crossing the finish line. It's about endurance, about never giving up, about coming back again and again, even when the odds say no. Even the family drama is part of the legend. Boardroom chess matches, failed takeovers, tales of pride and rivalry. And yes, the occasional stumble, a diesel scandal, grumbles from purists about SUVs and sedans, the never-ending debate over how much customization is too much. But that's Porsche. Always daring, always polarizing, always moving forward. Now, dear dreamer, take one last slow breath. Picture yourself on a lonely alpine road, the headlights slicing through mist, the horizon just a question waiting to be answered. With Porsche, every journey is a dialogue between you, the machine, and the possibility of the perfect moment. It's not about being the fastest or the loudest. It's about feeling, about connection, about turning every mile into memory. So as you close your eyes tonight, let the echo of that flat-six engine linger in your dreams. May your journeys be smooth, your corners sharp, and your life always a little closer to perfection. Picture yourself beneath the amber glow of a Detroit street lamp, the city humming with life, and the air buzzing with a quiet defiance. Here, in the heart of America's car country, Chrysler began not as a story of effortless triumph, but as a saga of tenacity, reinvention, and more than a few daring escapes from disaster. The Chrysler badge has worn many faces over the years, changing its look like a jazz musician swaps melodies. From the elegant wax seal, nodding to founder Walter Chrysler's love of craft, to the grand wings stretching across a modern grille. No matter its shape, the badge has always tried to whisper something graceful, even when the factory lights flickered and the future seemed uncertain. Walter Chrysler was not just another businessman in a city of big dreams. He was a man who believed that good engineering could change lives. After rescuing the nearly forgotten Maxwell Motor Company, Walter put his name on the line in 1925. and promised something special, cars, that brought real innovations to ordinary families. That very first Chrysler 6 rolled out with hydraulic brakes and high-compression engines. Stuff no one else dared put in an affordable ride. And suddenly, Chrysler wasn't just part of Detroit's Big Three. It was the automaker that made the big guys nervous. The company's boldness didn't stop at the curb. In the 30s, Chrysler reached for the clouds, leaving a mark on the New York skyline with the shimmering spire of the Chrysler Building. Down below, on rain-slicked roads, they experimented with the airflow, a car so ahead of its time that even buyers didn't know what to do with it. Still, the lesson was learned. Innovation means risk, and risk means the possibility of falling. Post-war America was a place of hope, highways, and heavy steel. Chrysler pumped out sedans that looked like rolling living rooms, each one a symbol of fresh starts and freedom. But by the 70s, as oil prices soared and Japanese imports whispered of better mileage, the old Chrysler cruisers began to seem like dinosaurs. Enter Lee Iacocca, a man with a voice that could sell sand in a desert and the guts to ask Congress for help. Out of this storm came the minivan, yes, the humble family van. Launched in 1984, it became America's family hero and Chrysler's golden lifeline. The 90s brought a burst of style, the cab-forward revolution. Cars like the 300M and the Wild Prowler with its retro-futuristic charm. Yet behind every daring shape was a company always one step away from trouble. Mergers, sales, and boardroom drama became as much a part of the story as horsepower and chrome. Let's open Chrysler's very unpredictable garage. There's the airflow gliding through a rainstorm too clever for its time. The Imperial, all velvet and grandeur, a car you'd expect to see outside an old movie palace. The town and country minivan, with its sliding doors welcoming soccer teams and tired parents. Not glamorous, but real, and sometimes, real is what saves the day. The 300C, bursting back onto the scene in the 2000s, its Hemi V8 thumping under the hood, reminding the world that American sedans could still swagger. And who could forget the PT Cruiser? Quirky, memorable, impossible to ignore. Chrysler never shied away from partnerships, even if they sometimes led to strange dance partners. There was the luxury flirtation with Maserati, the infamous Chrysler TC by Maserati, a coupe that nobody really asked for, but everyone remembers. Through its siblings Dodge and Plymouth, Chrysler helped birth some of the wildest machines in muscle car lore: the Charger, the Barracuda, the Viper. Maybe Chrysler wasn't always on the racetrack, but its family sure knew how to raise a little hell when the green flag dropped. Yet the numbers tell a tale of survival, not domination. Once towering beside Ford and General Motors, Chrysler by the 2000s was more often a survivor than a leader. The crash of 2008, the public bankruptcy in 2009, the late-night deals with Fiat, all painted Chrysler as Detroit's perennial comeback kid. Now, as a piece of the Stellantis group, Chrysler makes fewer than 200,000 cars a year, focusing on minivans and the steadfast 300. The glory days may be faded, but the spirit, that stubborn refusal to quit, still lingers in every Pacifica that rolls out the doors. Racing, not quite Chrysler's own scene, but their badge has seen victory lanes through the hands of Dodge and Plymouth. The thundering Superbird, the Wild Viper, the roar of muscle at NASCAR's golden hour. Chrysler's extended family loves a finish line, even if the parent brand prefers a midnight cruise through city lights. Of course, the road hasn't always been smooth. There were the bailouts, the awkward Daimler-Chrysler merger of equals that ended more like a messy divorce, and those models best forgotten. Sebring, Aspen, Crossfire, each with dreams that ran just a bit ahead of reality. And yet, even at its lowest, Chrysler wore a brave face. Reinvention is built into its bones. So, as you glide through the night and the city skyline fades in your mirror, remember what Chrysler really means. It's not about being the first across the finish line, or even being the flashiest on the block. It's about never giving up, about grit, about hope, about the joy of picking yourself up one more time than you fall. Legacy is persistence, not perfection. As you drift off tonight, dream of a 300 gliding under starlight, the engine humming the tune of quiet pride and second chances. Every twist in Chrysler's journey is just another road worth driving. Because with Chrysler, it was never about flawless victories. It was about simply not stopping. Imagine yourself strolling down a cobbled street in Milan just as the morning sun chases away the last shadows of the night. There's the scent of fresh espresso in the air, the echo of laughter from a nearby cafe, and somewhere far off, the unmistakable purr of an engine waking up the city. This is where Alfa Romeo's story begins. Not just with machinery, but with a heartbeat, a little bit of chaos, and a lot of Italian soul. Once upon a time, there was simply ALFA, Anonima Lombarda Fabrica Automobili, a name that sounds like a business meeting, but hides the promise of adventure. From the very start, these weren't cars for the faint of heart. They were crafted to stir something inside you, to pull you out of routine and remind you that life is always more beautiful with a touch of risk. Then along came Nicola Romeo, a man with ink stains on his fingers and ambition swirling in his coffee cup. He took over ALFA in the uncertain days of war, and by 1920, stamped his name on the badge. And just like that, Alfa Romeo was born, an Italian opera set on four wheels, ready to sing its way through history. Have you ever truly looked at the Alfa Romeo logo? Take a moment. On one side, the Red Cross of Milan, proud and protective. On the other, the green bicyene, a serpent caught in a moment between menace and mystery, said to be swallowing or perhaps giving birth to a man. Some say it's a symbol of the Visconti family, ancient Milanese nobles who knew that legends are made from just a hint of danger. Alfa took this emblem and gave it a new life, letting every car wear it like a whispered secret. Yes, I'm beautiful, but I might just bite. What do you think? Charming or a little bit wild? Alfa Romeo has always been about more than logic. Owning one is like falling in love with someone unpredictable. Ask any owner and you'll get a grin, a shrug, and probably a story about being late because their Alfa needed a moment. That's part of the deal. Beauty, speed, and a personality as mercurial as an Italian spring. And really, isn't that better than a life of dull predictability? Would you trade a passionate affair for something that never surprises you? Now, step into Alfa's world of racing, a place where victory and heartbreak are separated by the blink of an eye. In the 1920s and 30s, while most companies were just learning not to stall on hills, Alfa Romeo was already collecting silverware, winning the very first Grand Prix World Championship in 1925. Then came a young Enzo Ferrari, racing in Alfa's scarlet machines before ever dreaming of his own stable of prancing horses. In fact, his racing team started as Alfa's own. So if you ever hear a playful rivalry between Alfa and Ferrari fans, remember, it's a family argument. Every Alfa Romeo carries a little echo of the racetrack, even in the curve of the hood or the growl of the exhaust. These cars don't just take you places. They make you feel the thrill of living dangerously, of rolling the dice every time you turn the key. It's in the way a spider dodo slices through a sunset on the Amalfi Coast, or how a Giulia quadrifoglio devours corners with a four-leaf clover shining on its flank. Do you believe in luck? Yugo Civicsai did. In 1923, he painted a green clover on his Alfa for good fortune and won. Next race, without his lucky charm, fate turned. Ever since, the fastest Alfas have worn the quadrifoglio, a pact with destiny that's lasted a century. Let's take a night drive through Alfa's garage of legends. The 8C290B, a 30s sculpture on wheels, so beautiful it could break your heart just to look at it. The Giulietta Sprint, a 50s flirtation in steel and chrome, making even daily errands feel like a Roman holiday. The Spider Dodo, forever young thanks to Dustin Hoffman's cinematic getaway. The GTV6 from the 80s, sharp, sly, the rebel of its era. And today's Giulia Quadrifoglio, a beast with a green leaf that still dares you to go a little too fast. But let's be honest, dear dreamer. Loving an Alfa Romeo means loving its imperfections. The mysterious lights on the dashboard, the little mechanical dramas, the way it sometimes says, "not today," and then, when it finally roars back to life, you forgive everything. Would you rather have a car that never breaks, or a car that makes your heart race even when it does? Alfa fans know their answer. They don't buy cars, they start love affairs. Financial woes, changes in ownership, whispers that Alfa might lose its spark. All these challenges have shaped its legend. The 2000s brought a new renaissance. The featherweight 4C, the bold Giulia, the stylish Stelvio. In a world of silent, soulless crossovers, Alfa still insists on a little drama and a lot of emotion. Even as the world turns electric, Alfa promises that whatever the future holds, their cars will still seduce your senses. Alfa Romeo's slogan says it all, the mechanics of emotion. They don't build appliances. They build invitations to risk, to beauty, to joy, and sometimes to mischief. What about you, dear dreamer? Would you choose the safe route, or would you let your heart drive? So as the story slows and you settle in for the night, remember, Alfa Romeo isn't just about getting from A to B, it's about every feeling in between. It's about singing engines, starlit roads, and the kind of passion you can't explain, only feel. As you drift into sleep, may your dreams be bright, a little wild, and always with a red serpent just around the next corner. Picture yourself standing at dawn in a quiet German town. There's the scent of dew on the grass, the crisp bite of morning air, and somewhere, faint but unmistakable, the murmur of a new engine turning over for the first time. This is where Audi's story begins, not with noise or grand proclamations, but with a quiet determination to do things differently. Long before those four famous rings came together, there was a man named August Horch. His name, fittingly, means listen in German, and when life handed him trouble, shown the door from his own company, forbidden to even use his name on another car, he simply translated it into Latin. Horch became Audi. Listen became Audier. Instead of making a scene, August just started over, letting his work do the talking. Would you have done the same? When life blocks your path, do you look for another door or quietly build your own? Audi's logo is more than a badge. It's a story told in silence. Each ring represents one of four companies that came together in 1932: Audi, DKW, Horch, and Wanderer. Four stories, four ambitions, four sets of hands reaching out and gripping tight in hard times. Imagine those early meetings, men around a wooden table, forging unity not for glory, but for survival. Even today, every time you see those rings, remember, strength can be quiet, and unity isn't always about making a scene. But Audi was never satisfied with just surviving. By the 1930s, their racing cars, the legendary Silver Arrows, were streaks of mercury across European circuits, built with the help of Ferdinand Porsche. Rear engines, raw speed, no seat belts, no fear. Drivers like Bernd Rosemeyer became legends, their bravery echoing louder than the roar of their machines. Imagine them slicing through morning fog, every corner a question, every straightaway an answer. Then war came and silence fell. Audi, like so many, saw its factories turn to rubble, its hopes buried. But out of the ashes came a slow, steady return. By the 1960s, thanks to Volkswagen's backing, the Audi name reappeared on a badge. No fanfare, just a quiet confidence. By 1971, they'd found their voice, Vorsprung durch Technik. Progress through technology. Not a boast, but a promise. To make every detail matter, to keep improving even when nobody's watching. Pause for a moment. Can you hear the difference between noise and meaning? That's Audi's secret. In the 1980s, the world was obsessed with rear-wheel drive. Audi showed up at the rally party with something new, Quattro. A clever four-wheel drive system that let their boxy cars dance through mud, snow, and gravel, while others spun helplessly. It was like watching a chess player win with an unexpected move. In an instant, Audi was no longer the quiet guest. It was the brand everyone wanted to imitate. Let's step through Audi's garage of quiet brilliance. The Audi 100 from 1968 was the comeback nobody saw coming, modest, elegant, a new benchmark for the sensible luxury car. The original Quattro from 1980, a game changer for rally fans and a nightmare for competitors, turning every dirt road into a stage. The Audi A4 and A6, practical but with a subtle twist, German engineering for those who liked their power without the attitude. The A8 with its aluminum space frame, a car so light on its feet it felt like a secret supercar. The TT, a rolling sculpture inspired by Bauhaus, curves in all the right places, daring you to touch. The RS models, everyday cars with a mischievous glint, family wagons that howl with over 600 horses when you press the right pedal. And then the R8, the quiet supercar, as happy on a city street as a racetrack, proof that you can chase your dreams in comfort and style. Audi has always loved experimenting, not just for the sake of it, but to quietly improve your daily drive. LED running lights that wink at you in the dark. Virtual cockpits that turn your dashboard into a pilot's dream. Piloted driving, Audi sent a car up Pikes Peak with no one at the wheel, just because they could. Sometimes their best tricks are hidden, noticed only by those who pay attention. Are you someone who notices the small things, who finds joy in details that others overlook? Of course, even the quietest brands stumble. In 2015, Audi was swept up in Dieselgate. Clever software made engines look cleaner than they were. A dent in their reputation, proof that even perfectionists make mistakes when the pressure is high. But as always, Audi responded not with noise, but with change. A push for electrification, a promise to do better, a vision of luxury that's cleaner, smarter, more responsible. Today, Audi races into the future with e-tron, their electric dreams on wheels. They still win trophies, from rally stages to Le Mans, where their hybrids rewrote the rules of endurance racing. And soon, they'll return to Formula One, chasing speed not with bluster, but with quiet certainty. So, as this story drifts to a gentle close, think about what Audi truly offers. It's not about being the loudest on the road or the fastest in a straight line. It's about trust. It's about believing that progress is possible, even when nobody's cheering you on. It's about finding your own path and listening. To the road, to the car, to yourself. Dear dreamer, as you fall asleep tonight, let your thoughts glide as smoothly as an Audi through a silent city street. May you remember that sometimes true luxury is not in making a splash, but in making everything work perfectly, quietly, beautifully, just for you. Imagine the scene, a young boy in a sunlit Milanese workshop, dust motes dancing in the air, the aroma of carved wood and warm varnish curling around the dreams of a restless heart. This is where the legend begins, in the house of the Bugatti family, where creativity was not a luxury, but a way of life. Eder Bugatti, son of a celebrated furniture designer, brother to a sculptor, seemed almost destined for art. And yet his gaze always wandered toward movement, to machines, but never for their brute force. For Eder, every curve, every bolt, every gear should serve beauty first and speed only second. As a teenager, while others doodled on napkins, Eder drew engines and elegant bodies, already whispering his gospel. Nothing is too beautiful, nothing is too expensive. When he was barely 20, he packed his sketches, his ideals, and a little hope, and set out for Alsace, a borderland dancing between French grace and German precision. There, under the looming roofs and soft hills of Molsheim, he founded Automobiles e Bugatti in 1909. The old town, once sleepy, soon thrummed with a new kind of music, the delicate clatter of craftsmen at work, hammers and hands sculpting not just cars, but moving sculptures. From the very first, Bugatti's cars were more than machines. Even the bits nobody would ever see, hidden bolts, the back of an engine mount, were finished like treasures. Eder demanded that everything in his cars be a marriage of performance and poise. Can you imagine walking into a workshop, seeing mechanics in aprons, but every one of them with the eye of a jeweler? There's a question for you. Is true beauty in what everyone admires, or in the details only the creator ever sees? Through the roaring 20s and elegant 30s, Bugatti became the secret language of aristocrats and adventurers. The Type 35, slender as a greyhound, blue as the Mediterranean at dawn, took over 1,000 victories on racetracks across Europe. Imagine standing at the finish line, the air full of dust and expectation, as that narrow nose hurtles past, not with the violence of brute force, but with the confidence of a maestro's final note. Then came the Type 41 Real, a car so long you could host a banquet on its bonnet, an engine borrowed from locomotives, a presence that made even kings hesitate. It was more than excess. It was a rolling provocation, a question to the world. How much grandeur is too much? For Eder, the answer was always not enough, if it's done beautifully. And yet, the world is not always gentle with its dreamers. The 30s faded into darkness. War swept across Europe, and with it came heartbreak. Jean Bugatti, Eder's beloved son, an artist in his own right, was lost while testing the breathtaking Type 57C, a car that still makes hearts stutter, even standing silent in a museum. Molsheim was occupied, the old workshops shuttered, the tools of creation laid down. Eder's heart broke. He passed away in 1947, and for a long time the name Bugatti became a whisper, a rumor in the halls of motoring. Decades passed. The world moved faster, but not always more beautifully. Then, in the 90s, a wild idea flickered back to life. Could the legend be reborn? The EB 110, a wedge of thunder and turbochargers, tried to bring back the spirit, but the timing was wrong, the world distracted by other dreams. Still, Bugatti would not be silenced. In 1998, Volkswagen saw the potential for magic, not just speed. The result? The Veyron, a quad-turbo W16 engine, over 400 kilometers per hour, 10 radiators, engineers tearing their hair out and laughing like children on Christmas morning. A car so audacious, it didn't just break records, it made new ones. But Bugatti never stopped at the possible. The Chiron arrived, a moving contradiction. More powerful, more refined, quieter at 300 kilometers per hour than most cars at 50, still hand-assembled by artisans in white gloves. And each special edition, the Divo, the Cento Dicei, the track-bred Bolide, wasn't just about pushing limits. but about painting new horizons with every curve and carbon fiber detail. And what about the future? Bugatti, now dancing with Rimac, looks toward a world where even lightning can be sculpted. Will the next Bugatti be electric, silent as a falling feather but breathtaking as a thunderclap? No matter, because the spirit will endure. Etter's voice lingers. Pure artistry is never obsolete. Now, dear dreamer, as you slip beneath your covers, imagine the scene. You're at the wheel of a Bugatti, the dashboard gleaming in the moonlight, the world blurring into art as you glide through sleeping cities. There's no hurry, you drive for the pleasure of feeling alive, of moving through a world that sometimes forgets to marvel at beauty. A Bugatti is not about arrival. It is about the journey, about tasting perfection and carrying a piece of eternity beneath your fingertips. So, as your thoughts drift like headlights on a midnight road, ask yourself in your life, do you seek speed or do you chase beauty? Or perhaps, like Bugatti, do you insist on both and accept no compromises? Good night, dear dreamer. May your imagination race on 16 cylinders. May your worries fade like dust in the slipstream. And may you always find a masterpiece waiting just around the next bend.